What's up guys, GrincherZ here, back with another video. Today I'll be doing deck tech number 4 with Sabotage Sajj. Say that 5 times fast. This is a deck that, while not exactly meta, and has a couple of shortcomings, I've definitely had a lot of fun with. We built this deck shortly after finishing off S rank on a 20 game win streak, not with this deck, but on my Smurf, and we wanted to have some fun, and we definitely had some. This deck I'm kind of proud of for a number of reasons, but mostly because it uses a lot of not very commonly played cards, a lot of underplayed cards in this deck, and a lot of concepts that some people overlook when deck building and are definitely very difficult for the opponent to play around. So without further ado, let's pull up the list. Bam. And instantly your eyes go, wow, that is a lot of cards I've probably not seen ever. We got memes like Blind Scorch, Psychic Conduit, Sand Sister Seon, even Zen Rui, and Grove Lion. There are so many cards in this deck that are just underrepresented on the ladder and in general that that will often catch your opponents off guard. And I really enjoyed that about this deck. It was a lot of fun to build it and play it, and even though it didn't end up as, you know, all-encompassing as I wanted it to be in a couple of games I got burned down from just I got star horned. Let's leave it at that. But I felt that I was in a very commanding position throughout the entire game until I got out of hand damaged from a high count. But otherwise, it felt very good to play, and it actually punished several Rivas that we were playing against, and that was surprising because they're typically a matchup for Vitruvian that just doesn't go very well. So let's go over some of the cards in the deck. Now, because of the Siphon Energy nerf, I feel that Vitruvian is forced to play the minion-based Dispel, and I choose to use Ephemeral Shroud versus Lightbender. Like, some people prefer Lightbender, some people prefer Ephemeral Shroud. I prefer Ephemeral Shroud because if I need to really reach something in the corner, it's lower mana cost, meaning that if the opponent plays it in the corner, I can chain minions to dispel it if necessary, and it also it just fits into the curve a little better. I don't feel that there are enough value. I don't feel like there's enough decks out there that get punished too heavily by Lightbender right this minute. There definitely are good opportunities for Lightbender, but in Vitruvian's case, I think they are better off just having the dispel for the oh snap scenarios where, like, oh, there's a 4 wins in the corner, or oh, there's a range minion in the corner, Decimus in the corner, that kind of thing, and you gotta dispel it. We're also running Wildfire Ankh, so sometimes we can deal with things pretty efficiently, but for the most part, that's what it's there for. Healing Mystic, we're also running 9 2-drops. Healing Mystic, Primus Fist, they're just good solid 2-drops, 2 3s with good effects that let us trade up with some of our minions, as well as packs to really put pressure on the opponent from the beginning of the game if we have the opportunity, which is something that lets us, it gives us a little bit of more breathing room. If the opponent is forced to dispel packs, that means there's more playability for our Amara healers later on, which is great. There's also just a lot of value from a couple of Iron Dervish if they happen to come out. So you got to be a little careful of Battle Pet AI, doing things you didn't really want it to do, like hitting that Sojourner and stuff like that. But overall, I'm comfortable running this 2-drop as opposed to another at the moment. Azure Herald, I've tried in the past, and I don't know, the healing didn't really matter in the long run. I think it's more about securing your position in the early game, and I like packs for that. So after that, we have Falcius, a staple in any Sajj deck, almost any Vitruvian deck as well. Lets us really get value out of our Bloodborne spell, and also not taking damage from hitting minions, or other effects, like say if you're playing a mirror match and you kill an Amara healer, right? That means if you play Falcius in that turn, while the healing will proc for the opponent, the damage will not proc for you. So it blocks those types of effects, as well as Spectral Revenant, etc., or Flameblood Warlocks. So be it, you know, whatever you're playing, it'll block that damage, and it's become an auto include Simzar, and it's perfect for our deck. Next we have the Zephyr, which is a Rise of the Bloodborne exclusive, which, you know, I'm actually, if I'm completely honest, it's a little underwhelming, but we definitely did get value out of it the few times that we were able to. It didn't feel completely secure. Like, if I had to start attacking the deck, this is probably one of the first spots that I went to start making changes, just because even though the frenzy can be powerful, I don't think it happens frequently enough, because the attack boost with your Bloodborne spell sometimes isn't quite big enough. For example, a Silverguard Knight, right? Your opponent plays Silverguard Knight next to you, and then they play a Windblade Adept. And if you can't clear the Silverguard Knight, you end up just with this weird board state where you hit something and you didn't quite clear it, and so sometimes you'll go with a different play, and that's really unfortunate. And it's also unfortunate because the body of the minion is only a 3/3, but we did put it in the deck to help give our Spine Cleaver some added assistance, and there's also some rare cases where it helps us with Falcius on 7 mana. You know, you play Falcius, play that, and you Bloodborne spell, or if you have Seon on the board already, you can get value out of it. So I wasn't completely opposed to it in the deck. It was a little underwhelming, if I'm completely honest. But it has its upsides. So don't jump ship. Give it a shot before you start making changes. But if you do feel the need for changes, for example, adding AOE like Scorn, I don't blame you. So this would be where I'd put Scorn if you wanted that instead. So don't be afraid. Sand Sister Seon, or Seon, whichever, she actually hasn't seen play in months and months and months, and every time I played her, I felt like I was very strong right now. I think people underestimate her. I think right now for Sajj, I think she's actually in a very decent spot comparatively to where she was in the past, just because of the nature of what updates have been given to Vitruvian, as far as like Falcius, Spine Cleaver. Excuse me. Sometimes that one extra damage point is just, you know, it's perfect. It's also, the stat line behind it, a 3/4, is better than a 3/3 that Zephyr is, or Falcius. So it has that going for it. Typically I'll play it a little safer though, and try to eke out the value of its added attack bonus over a course of turns, rather than just playing it up front, getting in the hit, and then they remove it. So it is what it is, but it was definitely feeling pretty good when we played it. It added a lot of damage when we were pressuring the opponent, and yeah, I was not opposed to it at all. Amara Healer ×3. This is sort of our failsafe. It's like, you know, alert status red, and they're going face. Drop the Amara. You know, it's also good against Linar. It's just a strong backup plan, right? It's like an insurance policy. So sometimes it'll be too slow, or sometimes it'll be irrelevant because the opponent has out of hand damage, which is just kind of the case for Vitruvian in general right now. But it's definitely an auto include in this deck because it gives us some breathing room when we need it. Another card along those lines is Grovelion. It lets us start smacking things for free every turn because of the force field. It comes back every turn. I found this card to be pretty good. It let me, like I said, it just let me punch things for free, and that's pretty much what it's there for. It also blocks the first instance of damage your opponent can do, and if they have to dispel it or something, you still got a nice 5/5. I will often play it slightly aggressively if I don't have any other threats on the board, because I value the ability to follow up with it. I'm kind of the believer of if they remove it, they remove it. It's kind of, it doesn't. They either remove it or they don't, and I'd rather take the risk that they don't. So that's kind of my positioning mindset with that. But it's felt pretty good in an artifact-based deck. The last minion, I should say, is Zenrui. Now, this is kind of a interesting card. Since it's nerfed from 5 mana to 6 mana, and its health buff from 3 to 4, it's actually felt a little underwhelming still, but it does have the added bonus of being played with Blind Scorch. It's a 7 mana play, but you get to take over any minion. So I wanted that combo in the deck rather than Dominate Will, because it puts more bodies on the board, and it's the same mana as Dominate Will. And since I'm running Blind Scorch for this, it also doubles down Blind Scorch as just removal, where I lower the attack of something to 0 so I can punch it for free. So I went over this combo rather than Dominate Will, and I felt it was more impactful. Now, the downside of not having Dominate Will or Mirage Master in the deck is that things like Spectral Revenant can't be taken advantage of, but we do have the ability to reach, say, Shadow Sister Kalinos and Duelyst Tombstones and stuff like that with Zenrui. So it's felt pretty good. It's just sometimes it's too slow to hold on to the whole combo, so you gotta be kind of aware of what you're playing against and what you should expect, and hopefully the value comes for you. But let's move on to the spells. We got Blind Scorch, like I talked about for Zenrui, lowers the cost, so it's a wombo. It also, like I said, has that ability of reducing the opponent's minion to 0 attack, and that can be useful for Psychic Conduit as well, because if you absolutely have to get something out of your face, you can Blind Scorch Psychic Conduit if it's too big. But it's mostly there just for the Zenrui and the ability to hit something without taking damage. First Wish for cantripping. You'll notice there's not much in the way of card draw in the deck, and that is because the deck kind of curves out a little naturally, and we just keep things like Amara and Grove Lion towards the end of the early game, just so we have those plays as it goes out. Going forward with this deck in the future, I may consider more card draw options, as sometimes you can get that top deck mode a little early if you were forced to make too many 2-drop plays or something like that. So going forward, I may consider more card draw. For now, it is kind of just where I went with it, and it felt okay. So Psychic Conduit. Now, this is a card that really just has never been a ladder card. Since Shimzar, I think I've seen it twice on the ladder and a couple times in Gauntlet here and there. But overall, this card has just never really been played. And, oh man, well, wait till we get to the game today. It's really powerful, and I think a lot of people don't respect it. So we'll talk more about that in the game. The other artifacts that I'm running are Wildfire Ankh and Spinecleaver. That is the chosen sort of win condition, I guess. The idea being that we Spinecleaver, get the Bloodfire totems on the board, and then run away, and hopefully we just, sort of ping them to death with the Bloodfire totems and drop Amara healers and stuff. But the rest of the deck is designed to make sure our early game is successful, and every game I played with the deck, that happened. The games that I lost with the deck were pretty much to uninteractive combos from Starhorn and Vath, like rush minions. So maybe Night Watcher could be a thing, but for now, this is the deck that I played, and yeah, it was pretty fun. So strong matchups for this deck would definitely be something like Lionar, someone who, they try to get value out of their board a lot, and we have a lot of good ways to punish their board. Tempo Liner has the ability to out-tempo us, but hopefully you are able to position yourself in such a way that does not get you surrounded all the time. And if you do, you have the Zephyr to hopefully back you out of that scenario. But big minion liner, for sure, we got that one. Lock it down. Other matchups that are really great for us is like, let's see, Mechazor is actually pretty decent for us. I played it against Mech a couple times with this deck, and it felt really strong. I felt in a very commanding position. I was able to dispel the Mech, and then once it got into position, I was just, Falsius smack it or Blind Scorch smack it. The problem I ran into was, again, the opponents had a little bit too much out of hand damage, but we're on the right path, and we're on the right path. We felt very strong. So, but like I said, against Riva and Faye, Psychic Conduit can just be game wrecking. I had a game against a Faye where I Psychic Conduited her Crystal Wisp and took it over and got the damage. So it was pretty good. Got the damage and got the mana, I should say. So those types of plays where you just get extreme value out of this card and the opponent can't do anything about it. So yeah, that's the list. So little different. It's not a completely meta deck this time, but I thought that'd be fun to kind of go over. So I do have a game lined up for you guys. It is against Riva, and it's an S-rank game as well. Against Draco Moriarty, who is S-rank number 9, I believe, at this recording. We played this once we got into S-rank, so that's kind of where we fell. Now, I said that this deck has a good matchup against Riva, and I'm not kidding. This hand is a little too hit or miss, so I believe it would be wise to replace Amara Healer and Zenrui. Going second, our opening play could potentially be Psychic Conduit on like a Chakri Avatar, or even funnier, a 1/3, the Katara, to backstab them. Now, would I do that? I'm not sure. I might, but it is pretty funny to think about, just answering their 2-drop right away with Psychic Conduit. But definitely the Zenrui and the Amara a little too slow here. Falsius could be useful, and Wildfire Ink could be perfect. So we'll see what happens. Oh, there goes Zenrui. Okay, I guess I kept the Amara Healer. I might have just thought I might just curve into it. Like I said, I do like to hold on to those cards for a couple of turns in the early game until you get to the end of the early game. Sorry, that volume always feels a little loud right away. I think I replace it here. I might even replace Blind Scorch. Okay, replace Blind Scorch. This is just Wildfire Ankh. I don't really care about being up against the wall or being forward. I decide to move forward and use the Wildfire Ankh in this scenario because I want to represent myself on these mana tiles. I have Falsius, so we could deal with something that gets played forward. Now, the opponent decides that Key Beholder is the play, which is interesting, right? Inner Focus, Key Beholder. They want to start chunking off that Wildfire Ankh, and they know that if I'm going to blast it back, it's going to counterattack, so it takes off another charge. What they don't know is that I'm playing Falsius right away. Immediately play the Falsius, keep the rest of the hand, I believe, and just blast it. Blind Scorch is pretty powerful, just because if they play something big, and I know Draco Moriarty might be playing a little bit more of a mid-rangey deck these days, so Blind Scorch may or may not come into play these first few turns. There we go. Neutrum Minion Riva, kind of similar to our deck. Yeah, I have a video that I put out, but Primus Shieldmaster is interesting, right? So immediately now I want all the ability in the world to just remove it, and this is where we have 5 mana, so I immediately just make the connection 4 + 1 + 1, easy. So I Blind Scorch this, I get to put Sand Sister down on the board. She's a 3/4. That puts my attack to 3. Bloodborne spell that puts my attack to 6. Clear it for free. Use the Falcius. Kill the Heartseeker. So, even though this Wildfire Ankh is equipped, it's more or less that I'm trying to preserve my hit points at this time. The Wildfire Ankh is also just a very useful tool. So I would much prefer to just preserve all the charges on it and take no damage while removing all the threats on their board and having a rather convincing one for ourselves. Double Psychic Conduit makes me feel pretty good. I'm hoping that I'm going to actually see play for it, though, because right now, the way it's going, it doesn't look like it is going to. So this is really good for us, right? It tells me that his hand is full of things that is either too much mana or really just doesn't want to play at this time because it needs inner focus to get value. And I have this Wildfire Ankh, so it could be easy for me to remove it. I believe we're going to draw a card first. Yeah. Alright, so this play I thought was pretty cute. This is something that you can do with Psychic Conduit. So you'll notice I don't have quite enough attack value to clear it. It would have been great if we'd had a oh man, Spine Cleaver, because I would have put our attack at 4, perfectly clearing it. We would have perfect mana. So you'll notice this positioning. Now, we were able to do this last turn as a side effect of going after the Heartseeker, but this is something that I think a lot of people miss when considering Blast in general as a concept for their decks when they play Wildfire Ankh, when they play Starfire Scarab, those types of things. The blocking your opponent's forward and backward movement, if I'm in control of the columns or the rows, blocking the opposite movement is very important. So I wanted to guarantee that anything he plays, my general, I wanted to have access to his general. I can't hit what's in this row, so if they were to run up here or run down here and play something, I couldn't quite hit this section, but I could definitely hit anything from here down in this window and anything here onwards up to here. So this big window of things that we can hit, and only 4 tiles that we can't with Blast. So by putting the Healing Mystic in front of him. Otherwise it would be they walk all the way to the wall and they get access to all this corner tiles. They'd only get this access right here that I can't reach. So knowing your limits and planning for them is very important. I also just didn't bother blocking off my general because if he comes down to hit me, he's going to 11 health, and we're going to have the surround on him with the Mara here, healer curving in too. So the subtle play that may seem obvious to some people is more or less, I felt, kind of by the book on how you should be utilizing your artifacts and making the most of them going into the next turn should they not be able to remove it. So just something I wanted to point out and talk about there. Now, I also decided to heal my Sand Sister Seon to play around Phoenix Fire. Unfortunately, I think he just uses Onyx Bear Seal on it. But we have something in mind for that. Yeah, so it's a 4/5. It's a little too much for him right now. We were right to play around Phoenix Fire, though. Otherwise, this Onyx Bear Seal probably would not have come out. I think they would have Phoenix Fired the Sand Sister and punched us, or something like that. And they might have had this Onyx Bear Seal next turn, which he actually doesn't. So, easy Amara healer. I'm getting a little low on life, so I don't mind keeping the Healing Mystic. Psychic Conduit is perfect again on things like Heartseeker, so should we need it, it's there. And I actually decided to hit, because I don't think they can quite do 14 damage, and it sets up a lot more pressure for the next turn for us. So Falcius is a really good top deck. Lets me do a lot of free removal. You notice they're just really uncomfortable. They use that Onyx Bear Seal one turn too soon, and they're in quite the pickle. So Primus Shieldmaster comes out. This is where we get to really just bully them. It feels so good to be the bully as Sajj. Oh man, let me tell you. So rather than go all face here, I decided actually to be very careful and just make sure there were no things that could go wrong. Very, very unhappy with the situation. So I decided to play the Healing Mystic between me and the General. So just throw it right back at him. Like, what? Why he keeps Lilith sighing? But this plays around if you had like minion inner focus backstab combos, which could happen. It's just going up here directly above them in a cardinal direction does nothing, because if they Onyx Bear Seal this or Phoenix Fire it, they're going to 2 HP and they're likely dead anyways. But if they Onyx Bear Seal it, going up here they're already restricted to just these couple of tiles, and both of these minions can reach their General. If they go this way, it's unlikely that too much will get done in this small tile space. So I'd rather be safe than sorry and block the minion direct access, because this side has Provoke. So slight positional information for ya. So you can see he does not have an answer readily available and decides to give it a Subaru, which is, very enjoyable for us. We were pretty much in the lead the entire game. Every single time they had something on board, it was just outvalued. Caught completely off guard by the Psychic Conduits and the Blind Scorch removal. We were able to get a lot of value out of our Sajj, rather than some of the other, or rather than the minimal value that you're kind of used to. So I also did pretty well against a couple other decks with this. Unfortunately, I'd like to fine-tune it just a little bit more before I'm ready to say, "Yay, go play this." But this was just meant to be a bit of a more fun deck tech and something interesting if you're looking for something interesting to play. But that's going to be it for me, guys. You can find the deck list as always beneath the video, as well as a link to the stream. Go ahead and if you feel the need to comment, subscribe, whatever, questions, suggestions, that's always nice. Leave those below and I'll read them in time. Until then, take care, guys. I'll see you next time.